Guys, we gotta talk. So, I have been very, very vocal on my platform for a very long time, and you guys all know that. I've been, watching politics since 2012. The thing that really started to push me over the edge was watching Obama and Romney sit and debate each other and realizing that they were sitting back and saying the exact same things to each other to the point, and I know I'm stealing this from another popular creator, but to the point of knowing that if you took the screen away from these people, like if you took them off the screen, just took their transcripts and took their names away, you wouldn't know which one of them was talking during the debate. Because they were trying to sell the same kind of bullshit right down the river. You know, we got to fight them over there. I'm going to do this for your economy. I'm going to do that for your economy, but don't worry, these other people are wrong, everything else. So I've got a fairly good pulse on what is happening politically, what everybody actually stands for, what bullshit they put up on the screen, and where they go from there. And with that being said, I swore a while ago I was not going to vote against anybody ever again. Now, with that being said, I did not want to vote for Trump this year, but I did it. I just came back. I went down to the town hall where I live. I looked at the ballot. I almost didn't. At the last minute, I almost changed my mind. I'm going to go over who I voted for all the way down my ballot as well because, well, I mean, most of you know that I live in Wisconsin District 3, close to the La Crosse area, and, I mean, I live in Wisconsin, so the Senate race is going to be, I mean, we know what that's all going to be for me. So, with that being said, yes, I did vote for Trump, and I had to sit and think about it in the booth for a long, long time. I think the people that were sitting around in the town hall thought I was fucking out of my mind. For how long I sat there and just tried to talk myself out of it, looking at the ballot. But what it came down to, and, you know, I've been open about what it was that I was going to do on Contemporary, but once you got the sheet of paper in front of you, it's a terrifying thing. When you realize that you have spent the last 4 years complaining about spending and trying to rein spending in, and the fact that all these other stupid-ass Republicans all just want to sit here and spend 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 the same way, and knowing that the last time through you said in 2018 you are never going to support him again if he signs another omnibus again, and then he turns around and signs 3 more of these fucking things. So it was a very, very hard moral position for me to sit in. But it came down to Harris. I voted against Kamala Harris today. I did not vote for anybody, even though I filled the little bubble next to Trump and Vance. But I voted against Harris today. And a few reasons as to why I did that. One of the big ones for me is the big piece of propaganda that we have going around is that if Trump gets back into office, he's going to put all of his political enemies in jail. Which I don't believe for even a half a second. If he wanted to do that, there was 2017 to 2021 in order for him to do that. Including the lame duck period, where he could have directed, well, I guess Bill Barr was kind of a cock anyway, so he probably couldn't have directed Bill Barr to do so, but I mean, you had that position where he supposedly thought he was completely wronged and had all this power to come back and do this and install himself as a dictator and this and that, instead of stepping down the way that he did. Which, I mean, that's fine, and that's a valid concern if you've been fed propaganda for the last decade of your life, that everything that the mainstream media says is absolutely true, and Nazi this, and racist that, and dictator this, and everything else that goes on with this kind of thing. If only we had a frame of reference of somebody who used the office that person was elected into to use the levers of government against inconvenient people, let's say. Let's not even make this political right now. Let's just say inconvenient people. I wonder where we can find an example of that. Oh yes, it's the former DA of California, who spent exorbitant amounts of time resources, and energy putting black men in jail, in prison, for relatively minor offenses and keeping them, holding evidence back and keeping them in prison so that she could have cheap labor for the state of California to put out the wildfires. This actually happened. That's the reason that she couldn't get a single vote in the primary in 2020, was the fact that Tulsi Gabbard knew this record, brought this record forward with receipts, and sharpened her claws into Harris. Yeah, okay, maybe Trump will do that. Maybe, I doubt he will, because he would actually have to have the bureaucracy willing to go back and do this for him. But Harris has. That's the biggest part that made me come back and say, okay, I'm going to fill the bubble for the person who has the most likely spot to defeat Harris. Even if I can't stand the spending plans of that person, and knowing that he's never seen a spending bill, government spending bill, that he didn't like, is because of the fact that I already know she's a known quantity for doing what it is that they're accusing Trump of wanting to do. She's done it in her history. She has the mental capability to do so. Now, and there were a bunch of other things with this, but that was the big one. I know that right now we're sitting into a war footing in like 6 different theaters at this point. Iran, Taiwan, Israel, with all of its neighbors, the Ukraine, North Korea is coming back, and Myanmar is sitting there off the corner. Plus, we've got a lot of stuff happening in North Africa still, and Western Central Africa that we haven't even dealt with, and the news hasn't brought up, and we have our fingers in all of these things. The possibility for a world war right now is the highest that it's been in my lifetime. And then I've got somebody who's going to be the first woman president, which I think that we are ready for. I'm not opposed to the idea of having a woman president, but I just don't want the one who feels like she's got to prove something to be one of the big boys. You know who I would like to see as the first woman president? Tulsi Gabbard. I can't believe I just said those words, because with Tulsi, I was still wary of her anti-gun stance. There were a few other things that made this at least somewhat comfortable for me to go back and vote for Trump, or vote against Harris, I guess, is the way that I did this and the way I've justified this to myself. The Rogan interview put a lot of my fears at ease. Because we're sitting here, there's a platform that's actually forming, and we've got actual reasonable ideas as to what we can do with the levers of government, what we'd like to do, an explanation for the tariffs, which I'm not 100% sold on, the way that he is proposing them. I am a tariff person. I like the idea of using them punitively to get the other trading partners to lower their tariffs so we can compete in their markets. I get where he's going with it. I'm not 100% opposed to the idea. I'm maybe 50% opposed to the idea based on the way they want to get used. But, I mean, the explanation made me feel a bit calmer. A bit of an explanation on the inner workings of the diplomacy that happened overseas and the way they were doing so. Because my default position is going to be anti-war. And then Vance. I have some worries about Vance. I do. Because I do have some fears that he's on the same train as the Jesus, George W. Bush, Ron DeSantis Republican side. But I know it was also a really, really big sell to get the DeSantis people on board without actually coming back to go and pull DeSantis. Because, like me, if DeSantis would have been on the vice presidential ticket, I would have stayed the fuck home. I would not have voted for a ticket that included Ron DeSantis, even in a vice presidential capacity. I'm going to watch Vance a little bit cautiously and see what it is that he does. Now, as far as the rest of my ballot goes, there was not a lot. I mean, because of where I'm positioned in western Wisconsin, all of my local races were Democrat. My local legislative races, one I left blank, the other one I did put a vote for the Republican because I knew that she would do a decent job with that. Van Orden, that was the other one I had to think really hard about, because I know that Miss Cook is trying to pull this, I'm this big working class person, and I've never been more than a waitress or anything else like that. She's trying to make AOC happen again, but I don't think she has the ethnic background to make AOC happen again. And she's like AOC too, this big community organizer, defund the police, do whatever the flavor of the day is to try to get the support of wherever the progressive wing is. But Van Orden doesn't impress me. I talked to my girlfriend's dad about this extensively on Sunday. I couldn't do it for Orden. I couldn't vote for him. I wrote myself in for Wisconsin District 3. So I got at least one vote for Wisconsin District 3. Hovde makes me nervous too. But Hovde not having an incumbency and not having a record of how he's going to vote, how he's going to campaign, and the stupid stuff that he's going to say, I was comfortable enough that I could bubble in for Hovde. And then, since all Democrats are running unopposed in all my local races, write in J. Edgar, write in J. Edgar, write in J. Edgar, write in J. Edgar, because there were 4 of them. So I wrote myself in on all of those. And then there were 2 propositions in my state as well. One was for a local school board. I did not vote in that because I didn't know any information for that. And I don't have a kid in this local school board, this particular local area that I'm in. And I'm also planning on leaving that, this area too. So I don't feel like I don't have the interest to make a decision for the local school based on the fact that I don't have skin in the game. But Wisconsin is trying to put an amendment into our state constitution to make it a requirement for somebody to be a citizen and a resident of the district that that person is voting in order to vote in that district, which, I mean, that goes twofold. That makes it impossible for the state legislature, if it flips to blue, to come in and say, oh yeah, no, we'll let non-citizens vote in our local elections. They obviously can't vote in the federal election, but we'll let them vote in our local elections, we promise. And it'll never go any further than that, which I'm going to call that as bullshit. But also, and this was something I talked to my sister about the other thing that this does is this makes it easier to pass a law that says that if you want to vote in the district as a student, where your college is, that you have to first renounce your residency at your home address. Otherwise, you would have to absentee to wherever your home address is, whether it be in Minnesota or in the other side of Wisconsin, if the case may be, or if it's in California or something like that. You have to eliminate your ability to request an absentee ballot in those areas legally. I know in places like California, you're probably still going to be able to, just by saying, oh yeah, I get mail at my parents' house still. Yeah, send me a ballot. Send me 10 ballots. I'm kidding. California would never send 10 ballots to a person who's going to vote for a Democrat. But I like the idea because, I mean, it requires you to actually have an ID in Wisconsin, a Wisconsin-based ID, whether it be driver's license or state-issue ID, which you can get for free, in order to vote in that particular district. So I did vote yes for that particular ballot initiative. Now, as far as the Orange Man goes, because I voted for him, this is not going to turn into a Trump Love Fest channel. I think most of the regulars that are going to see this video know that already. They know that I anticipate that if the Orange Man wins this year, the next 4 years, as we read the news, are still going to be littered with the words, you dumb motherfucker, on this channel, as we read things that are attributed to the Orange Man, especially if he signs a massive spending bill. I like the idea of Elon Musk and Ron Paul running a government efficiency bureau. I usually don't like government bureaus, but I like the idea that these people are going to go through and see where the government waste is. I can make a separate video on that based on the fact I do have worries about cutting too much all at once on the job market and the job economy, but it's the same thing it's the same concern I have about mass deportation and property value and holding people's wealth and keeping us out of a depression. I like the idea of mass deportation, even though it's going to violate a lot of the Fourth Amendment. I like the idea of getting a lot of these people out of the country. It's just if you do it all at once, you're going to see a major tank in property values that's going to take the rest of the economy with it, which is what we saw in '08 when people started losing their houses because of their adjustable rate mortgages. So I've got things like that. I'm going to hold Trump's nose to the grindstone. He got my vote. He has to earn my respect again. And he lost a lot of that in 2018. I very, very begrudgingly voted for him in 2020. I was excited for it in 2016. I said, hey, we got a businessman here. He could run the government like a business, make sure we're on budget, make sure that we don't go over budget and go into debt and things like that. And, I got my heart broken like a lot of fiscal people did. A lot of people who have been here since 2012, reading Ed's blog all the way back, already know all this. Already know how I'm going to be and how hard I'm going to hold people up to the grindstone. You've been watching since I made my first Parkland video, Nicholas Cruz video. I'm going to hold the orange man to the grindstone. If you're new to the channel and you think that you're going to come and dunk on Super Ultra Mega #1 red hat is Mac. It's from my Halloween costume. And my hair is a bit of a mess right now because I did just get up out of the shower. But welcome in. Stick around. You might fucking learn something. I am anti-government first. I'm anti-war, anti-government. And those are two positions that I know Prosecutor Harris is going to be 100% opposed to me on. So while it was a hard decision to do so, I feel like I made the right decision. What happens at the end of the night tonight honestly worries me a little bit because this is one of the first times in my life where I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen at the end of this night. But that's what I'm going to leave you with here. We're at 17 minutes right now, so thanks for watching. Take care. Join me for Contemporary, if you're watching this prior to Contemporary, at 6 p.m. Central Time on this channel, where we go over the last gasp of news before election time, some of the last promises that are made, some of the last campaign rallies, and some of the stuff that's going on overseas, because, of course we're going to go try to do something and launch something overseas in the midst of a lame duck session. And after that, after Contemporary, after we're done with that, I am going to take an hour off. I'm going to make something to eat, and then we're going to come back afterwards. I'm going to go exactly 60 minutes after Contemporary, whenever it ends. And we're going to start watching the results roll in and see where they go. We'll have call-ins, so you guys can do that. We'll have, I won't do any video chat with anybody, so you don't have to show your face, but we'll have call-ins with your screen names. Join the Discord if you haven't already, and we'll see you here tonight. Take care. Thanks a lot. Good night.